We are talking today about podcasting, and the title of the session is Podcasting 101, Share Your Program with the World. The great thing about podcasting is that it is so much easier to do now than it was way back in 2006 when I began podcasting. Back then, the devices weren't as good. The recording wasn't as easy. Distributing and creating the podcast itself took a lot more technical know-how, even some manual coding, if you will. So it was a lot of work and required a lot more technical knowledge. But nowadays, within the last few years, podcasting has gotten so popular, and there are podcasts on pretty much every topic imaginable, including my podcast, which is the Orchestra Teacher podcast. And it's something that I decided to do just about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, and just to talk to people, talk to colleagues and teachers about what we do and how we do it. And it's been amazing for me as an educator, but also I've gotten great feedback from other listeners. So I hope that you'll check it out. But it's just a lot of conversations about people's situations and what they're doing. And I know for a lot of us, it can sometimes feel like we're all on our own. We're the only teacher at our school that goes through certain things. So hopefully this is a way to just share what we do and make you feel good about things and make you think about things a little bit. Because every time I do an interview, I'm always thinking about how I might do things differently, or just bouncing ideas off of people always makes the world a difference. So hope that you will enjoy that. But today we're going to be talking about creating your own podcast for your orchestra program or your private studio even. It would be great to do. So there's lots of ideas, lots of things that can be featured. I'm going to show you kind of what it's all about, how to create it, how to distribute it, and give you some ideas of topics that you could use to create your podcast and different episodes that you could create. So that is our goal. Like I said, back in 2006, I had a high school orchestra podcast for the program that I worked with at Winter Park High School. It was very successful. It was kind of in the infancy of podcasting when it kind of wasn't very popular. So, but it was a great thing with my students and my parents and some of our community members, just to get out information and showcase our program a little bit. So today, I am not able to show you excerpts from my current orchestra podcast at Alpharetta High School, but we did start one just recently, and it was my goal to start one at the beginning of the school year, but COVID and all these things that happen with virtual teaching and hybrid learning and trying to create materials and things for my students, it just did not happen. So we started the initiative this semester, this January, as I'm recording this. So hopefully by the conference in March, I'll have some really current examples and even some more ideas for you all as we maybe are able to have a conversation after you watch this video. I would love that. And of course, at any point, you can always reach out to me at my email address is charleslaux1@gmail.com, or reach me via the orchestrateacher.net website, which is my website and the blog where I kind of keep everything that I do presentation-wise. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I hope that you will enjoy learning about making podcasts, and it is fun, it is free, and it doesn't really take that much technical know-how anymore. It just depends on how fancy you want to be with it. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So thanks for being here, and here we go. First, let's talk about what a podcast is. A podcast is a way of distributing audio via the web. In some cases, people use video, but video mainly has come to what we call YouTube nowadays and YouTube channels. So podcasting is really considered to be an audio format. Originally, it combined the word iPod, Apple's infamous music player, with the word broadcast. Later, the pod was taken away from Apple and became portable on-demand broadcast. And that's a great thing about a podcast. It is portable. You can use it on your computer, in your phone, your tablet. Lots of devices that will give you the ability to listen to podcasts. And so they're very, very handy, portable on demand. Podcasting is so much better than simply posting audio on a website and having people come to your content. With podcasting, your audience subscribes to your content and is automatically delivered new content each time you update it. There are many reasons why you should podcast. First off, it's free and it really works. It helps you build that personal connection with your audience. And allows you to reach a wide audience. Back in 2006, when I had my high school orchestra podcast going, I had subscribers from all over the country, not just my orchestra students and my orchestra parents, but I also had subscribers from different parts of our country and even the world. I had subscribers in Germany and the Netherlands. It was really neat to see that people were listening to my content way beyond where I ever expected it to go. Speaking of audience, who will your audience be? Obviously, if we're using our program as our audience, we're going to be shooting for our students and our parents, and maybe our community and our school. But you can also, put out content that would be great for other orchestra students and other programs and other teachers. This is the wonderful thing that everybody's going to be able to get your content very, very simply. And if you have good keywords as you upload it and a good description of your podcast, people are going to find your podcast very simply in Apple Music or Spotify or wherever they listen to podcasts. There are so many topics that you could put on a podcast. It's hard for me to list them all here. But the first thing I have there is lectures. When I was teaching music appreciation courses at Valencia Community College in Orlando, Florida, I used to podcast my lectures out, and that would include some of the listening that we did, but it ended up being a really, really successful thing, and students, every time there was a new lecture, it popped up. Obviously, I had it posted within our course management system and whatnot, but a lot of people liked the idea that they could just have that podcast subscribed, and they get the new content. So it worked out really, really well. You can put up supplemental instruction. You can do an audio newsletter, and I'll have a few examples here you're going to be able to hear of audio newsletters that are kind of led by me, but students interject with their own stories, kind of like how a news program would actually work. So you can put announcements in there. You can promote concerts. You can promote events that are coming up, fundraisers, whatnot. Students can do projects. I'm trying to get my students right now to put up some of their music history projects, some of the things we're doing, even some music theory projects that they can showcase themselves and what they're doing. So capturing live moments is a lot of fun. It's always neat to be able to hear the kids talk about how excited they are for the concert or how it went. So I'll show you some examples of that. You can put up presentations. You can do interviews with artists and other teachers, things like that. So many ideas, so many neat things that you could put up. So the possibilities really are endless. So if you've never listened to a podcast before, here's essentially what you need. You just need any internet device. It could be a computer, it could be a tablet, it could be a phone. You need a podcasting app, and you can find those on your app store. Examples would be, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Google and Amazon also have the ability to listen to podcasts. So whatever ecosystem you're in, there is a way to search for and find and subscribe to podcasts. And once you subscribe, depending on your notification settings and whatnot, you will be able to get all the new episodes and the latest and greatest from that particular podcast, so you don't miss out on anything that they're putting out. So I'm going to show you a few examples of different podcasts here. The first one is a performance invitation. Students inviting parents and other people, audience members, to come to their concert.
Early in the 19th century, in New York City, a radio broadcast of a novel written by H.G. Wells caused widespread panic. Now, not intending to cause panic, but the Park Phil is going to have quite a lineup for you at this upcoming spring concert. including a performance of The Bringer by War, Mars, of Holst. The Puck Phil will also be playing Nimrod, Elgar, Brahms' Tragic Overture, selections from Rocky, which should be exciting, and classic Beethoven's Fifth Finale. Anyway, it's going to be a very exciting concert. You all should come and check it out.
Oh, that Yaniv is a real doozy. Now, with a real reason you should go. First, on May 1st at 7, I know none of you have plans, so I plan to see you there. Second, it's free. There are two kind of things in this world, free and not free. This concert happens to be free, so now you have absolutely no reason not to go. But for those of you who are not convinced, I'll add in free food. Yes, free. This is Margot, and I hope to see you there.
So as you can see, kids get pretty creative. They have fun with it. And I think it's a lot more appealing to listen to than simply you saying, come to our concert, or, an adult saying, come to our concert. So when the kids hear other kids and when parents hear their kids, it's definitely, it's a special thing. So that was one example. Here's another example. Did a reaction to a performance. We just got done with a performance, and I wanted to see what the kids thought. So I just kind of had my handheld recorder, and I was kind of going around like a live interviewer, just asking them how they felt about it.
Well, our performance is done, and we did a great job. I'm really proud of all the students and how they did. So I'm going to go around and get some comments from our students and how we did. So this is comments from our students on how we did. Say about our performance.
I thought it was good. But my E string went out of tune.
I thought it was good, but I forgot to take my mute off, and a lot of things broke.
Well, I played the best that I've ever played, and I think all of it was wonderful.
I think it went really well. It was a lot of fun, and once we relaxed, it was really good.
Today.
I felt it was really good. I felt some pieces I did some personal issues that had some personal issues that I've never come across that were just mainly my fault, but otherwise it went really well, I thought.
Alright, none of the cellos or basses came in on a rest. I was so proud.
I was really happy with the whole performance. We played some of the pieces really strong. It's better than we've ever played them, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the convention.
So what a way to capture the moment. And, you don't always have to have video to do that. You can hear the excitement and the pride in the students' voices. And I think there's something to be said about that rather than just a video. So another category is being able to do an audio newsletter or just announcements via audio. This can go in conjunction with your written newsletter, or you can have students read portions of the newsletter and put it up in your podcast.
You're listening to the Winter Park High School Orchestra Podcast. Newsletter number 21.
Students, want to make some money for your orchestra account? Bring in at least 2 items for the silent auction coming up February 16th. You can start bringing your items in on February 1st.
Now we're going to send it over to Caleb to talk about the orchestra trip to D.C.
Please note that the final payment is due February 1st. Once students are paid in full, they may sign up for rooms. This is first paid, first served.
So you can see how that works, passing it around to have different students record different portions, and you put it together, and it's out there. So also you got the background music and some sound effects and whatnot, and that kept it a little bit more entertaining for the audience to listen to. The next example is a sample interview. This is an excerpt from the Orchestra Teacher podcast. And then you have your totally virtual online students. So you're not teaching hybrid necessarily in the fact that you have them both at the same time.
So for our beginners, we have only in person or only online. And then what I call our big kids, all of our non-beginners, we consolidated our 3 performing orchestras into 2. And so
okay.
those classes are both hybrid. So those have
Okay.
the kids who are, I call them tuning in from home,
Yeah.
and the ones who are in person.
Wow.
So it's definitely interesting, but part of the whole reason we couldn't do the cross entity with the other schools was...
So you can see that's just spoken word and two people having a conversation, which a lot of people have enjoyed. So again, this is the possibilities are completely and totally endless, and it really is up to your imagination. So now let's figure out how to make one. The prerequisites, obviously, you need an audience. You need people that want to listen to your podcast, and we all do have an audience. So that's the simple part. Check. You need some basic computer knowledge. You need to be able to know how to record or get to use an audio editing program. It's not that difficult anymore, and there's a lot of tutorials out there in order to do that, and there's lots of different programs. One free program is called Audacity, and I'll be sharing that link with you. That works on Mac or Windows. It's cross-platform, and it's totally free. It's not the most intuitive, and it's not the prettiest of applications, but it gets the job done. But check with your district too, because every district has different licenses. I know that we have the Adobe suite, so we can be using anything from the Adobe suite to do our editing. But check it out, and there's lots of resources out there for an audio editor. So, and then, or you could use a standalone recorder, and I'll be providing a link or a webpage that has lots of links to different devices and recorders that you could use to record your podcast. So there's many ways to record, but you just need something. And then you'll need an account. And I'm going to show you guys Anchor.fm, which is a website that hosts podcasts, and it's totally free and very simple to use, and you can have your podcast up and running in no time. So Anchor.fm, you need an account on Anchor. One of the most important things that you'll need, and the thing that you should probably spend the most on if you're going to be spending money on this project, is a microphone. And yes, you can get a really inexpensive, cheap $5 microphone. It's going to sound that way, but you don't need a $500 microphone to sound good. The one I'm using right now, the one that I've been recording on for this session, is the Rode NT USB Mini, and I'll be sharing a link to that. It's a $99 microphone, and does a really great job. Has a lot of neat features. It's small, and I think there's like I said, lots of choices for microphones, but a USB microphone is probably what most people will want. You don't have to have a big fancy interface and an external microphone and all these gadgets to be able to do this. A simple USB microphone, it plugs in, it's plug and play, and it'll record right to your computer. Or you could use, like I said, a standalone recorder, and I'll be showing you some different models of those. They're also great. They use a memory card, and then you can just take the memory card out, put it in your computer, or hook the device up to your computer via USB to transfer the audio, and then you could begin editing. Okay, so here are the steps to making your own podcast. The first thing you have to do is record your program. You have to have, there's lots of options, so I'm just going to take you through a few of them. The first is to use your built-in audio on your computer. You can record directly into Audacity, directly into GarageBand, whatever program you decide that maybe you want to use to do editing in. You could probably record right into that, and you could use your built-in microphone on your computer, which is not going to sound great. Not going to give you that full range of sound. It's not going to give you that professional sound, or, like I said, an external microphone. The option 2 is to use a digital recorder, and there's so many available. They start at around $50 and go up to hundreds of dollars, but there are lots of options, and even one for podcasting. It's the PodTrack V4 or V8, and those are wonderful because they have lots of options for doing phone interviews, so you can actually hook your phone up to the device, and it will record your phone audio along with your audio. So really great for doing distance podcasting or multiple people talking at the same time. So it has multiple inputs for more microphones. Obviously, the more microphones you need, the more expensive it's going to be. But you can use one microphone to record an interview with multiple people, and it's not that hard to do. One of the great things about Anchor is that it allows you to record directly in the browser. And I'm going to show you this example right now about how that works. But you can record with your microphone directly into the web browser. You don't even have to use a program. Now, obviously, you're not able to edit, but if you're just recording a live program, or you've got your script down, or you know what you want to say, and you don't need any editing or anything fancy, this is the way to go. One of the things I love about Zoom is that when you want to record an interview or a podcast with more than one person, you can open up your Zoom preferences, and it's going to show you a couple great features that most other video networking tools do not offer. If you go under the recording tab, you're going to see that there's a option to record a separate audio file for each participant. And that is great because it will record 2 tracks or audio if you have 2 people, or 3 tracks for 3 people. Each person gets their own audio track, and that allows you to import those into GarageBand or another program and line them up, and just make sure that obviously you're recording that, but it'll record the audio and align them up, and then it gives you control over each person's audio. For instance, if one member of your conversation is too loud, you can turn them down or bring their level down, and vice versa. If someone's speaking too softly, you can bring them up a little bit and balance it out for a professional sound. Some tips for getting the best podcast and the best sound. First, if you don't have a script, that might be a good idea if you're starting out, or for your students. It's maybe an essential thing for your students to keep them on track. And then keep your audio brief. Keep your episodes brief. Too long, it can really wear down an audience. Obviously, there are podcasts of different lengths. You'll go on to some podcasts and they'll have very short 5, 7, 10-minute episodes. And then if they're telling stories and whatnot, there's even some that are hours long. So, keep it within the topic and keep it relevant. And I think you'll be able to keep your listeners more engaged. Also, just make sure that you're getting the highest fidelity that you can with the equipment that you're using. If you want to make it, a little bit more interesting, you can use that introduction music or fill music in between topics, and then exit music. And you can use student performances. That's totally great. And there's lots of royalty-free music out there, different websites that will let you download some little clips and sound effects and whatnot for podcast use. And then try to keep your episodes regular. As far as, a regular basis, we're going to record an episode every week, or every once a month, or every 2 weeks. Obviously, you have to kind of figure out what you're able to do. But even if you start out with a goal of 1 podcast a month, then your audience will know, that they're looking forward to that next episode. So keep your episodes, consistent. Okay, step 2. Now you need to save your recording. The most popular format is MP3, and that is a compressed format. There's lots of different settings you can choose for MP3s, but I found that a 256 kbps works well for most type of podcasts. It does compress the audio and reduces the sound quality just a little bit, but it's really not that noticeable compared to an uncompressed file, and you'll have a much easier time uploading your audio if it's compressed rather than uncompressed. So, and that works on any platform. So save your recording as an MP3, and we'll go on to step 3. So we're going to gather the episode details. What your podcast episode needs is a title. This is what the listener sees. So you can put in episode number 1 and then a title, or you can just put in a title. You do need to have a description. This is what the podcast is about. And you can include hyperlinks and all that, any kind of rich text, and the links to email addresses and hashtags and whatnot in the description. So make sure that your description is complete. And then last and finally, but not mandatory, is the episode art. And that is some kind of graphic or a photo that may go along with the episode. So I'll show you examples of that once I open up Anchor and show you how that works, because I'm going to show you how to do kind of everything on Anchor quickly and show you how easy it is to put all this information into your podcast. Step 4 is you're going to log on to Anchor. You're going to upload your audio file and enter your details that we just talked about. And then you're going to get a link from them and you'll be able to distribute. Once you get your link from anchor.fm, then you can post that link anywhere. You can text it out, you can email it out, you can post it on social media, and you can even include the link to your podcast in your email signature. And then the other option is you can also embed your podcast into your website too. So there's lots of ways to distribute your podcast and get it out there for everybody to see. Now I'm going to show you a quick demo of how to make a podcast using a multi-track editor and how to get started with Anchor.fm. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you conceptually how you can make a podcast. I'm using Apple's GarageBand. There are lots of other programs out there for Mac and Windows that will allow you to do this, but I'm just going to show you how kind of tracks work, how you can put in a background track, how you can just basically make a podcast using a multi-track type of audio editor. So I'm going to start with an empty project. I'm going to hit choose, and it's going to set me up, and it's going to ask me what kind of tracks I want. Obviously, I'm going to make a microphone track, a recording track, and you can see that my microphone input is getting some levels here, and all I have to do simply is hit record. And now I'm recording. I'm going to start. This is my podcast. You can see I'm getting a waveform, and my audio is being captured. I'm going to hit stop. And once I hit stop, then I can go back and listen. This is my podcast. Okay, so I have that. And then if I want to create another track, I can do that. Or if I have two people or another person that I've recorded separately with my conversation, I can add them in. But I can create a new track just by doing this. Again, it's a microphone track. And here it is. And so if I record on this track, whoops, I'm still on the first track. I got to start recording on the second track here. There we go. So now I'm recording on the second track. I'm going to hit stop. And it has a count off. And now I'm recording on the second track. And you can see my audio is being captured here. And I'll hit stop. And then I'm back. And say I wanted to put in a background track. I can drag a background track into this area. If I find something online or an audio track for background music, you can do that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose my strings, my studio strings, and I'm just going to use a little track there. I can drag that in, and if I wanted to, I can loop it and keep it going, and I have that. Now it's a little loud, so in GarageBand, you have to go to the mix menu and you go show automation, and it's going to show you the volume of each track. And so maybe I wanted to have a little introduction, and I'm going to place a point here, and create a fade out, right, and fade it down a lot. I can move my audio around, and now I have this. And now I'm recording. Okay, so that's how you can put a background track in. You have your recording. Again, pretty simple to use. When you're done, you export it. You can save as, or you can use the share menu. You can export the song to disk. And again, this is where you're going to choose your compression format as MP3. I usually do highest quality 256K, and then to export, it's going to create a file for you. That's how you do it. Pretty simple. Once you have that audio file, that's what you're going to upload to your Anchor.fm. Okay, so this is the Anchor website. It's anchor.fm, not anchor.com. And this is how you'll get started with your podcast. So just go ahead. You can sign up for an account. Again, it's free. There's no commitment. There's no credit card. There's no nothing needed for creating an account on Anchor. Anchor is very simple to use. Everything is well laid out and well marked. Very simple interface. As I said, it's 100% free. They host your website. They store your audio files, and they actually distribute it to several podcast directories as well, including Apple and Spotify. One of the other great things about Anchor is that you can see your analytics. You can see who's listening to your podcast and how many listeners you have and where they're from and all kinds of information about them. All right, so once you have your podcast set up, you put in your name and your description. That's always editable, by the way. There's mine. You can also add your podcast cover art, and you choose your category and your language, and obviously, hopefully, your school podcast would be clean. And a few extra settings here: your name and email and website. And if you have that, if you want to connect your social media accounts, you can do that as well. All right here in the podcast settings. But if I want to create, once I have this set up and I have my podcast, I have a name and I have a description, I don't have any episodes, so I need to go to make a new episode. And it's very, very simple to do on Anchor. So if you are wanting to record your podcast right from your browser, you just have to allow Anchor FM to use your microphone. And probably going to have, so you choose your input. So if you're using a USB microphone, you would choose that here. Internal microphone, you would use that. You hit start recording now. It's going to start the timer, and you record as much as you need to. It says you can record up to 30 minutes in the browser, so there are limitations as opposed to recording to your hard drive or to another recording device of some sort. And once you're done, you hit stop, and it's going to upload that. Once it's done uploading, you hit save episode. The other option would be if you were, providing your own audio from an external source, you would just simply upload that. You give your episode a title. I'm going to call this one test. You can type in the description, and it lets you add, rich text with bold and italics and bullet lists, whatever you wanted to put in there. So if you have things that you want people to be able to read in their podcast app, whatever they're using, they can do that. You can also put in hyperlinks, which is nice. And then you can also schedule your podcast to go live at a certain date and time. So you can, give it a few more days, whatever you need to do, and choose the date. Then you can also choose a season number. So if you're keeping track, like this school year is season number 1, next school year season number 2, episode number, and what type of episode it is, whether it's full episode or you're going to do a little trailer or teaser or a bonus episode. And then again, your art, you can change this per episode. So I usually put, when I'm doing an interview, I'll put the interviewee's picture or headshot in here and upload that and crop it. It crops it for you and everything. And then once you're done, you just hit publish now, and that's all you have to do. So obviously I'm not going to publish my little test, but it's very, very simple. And then once you're there, it will show up in episodes. And there's my draft. So you can create drafts and come back to them. But you can see that I have access to all my episodes, and I'll go ahead and show you some details about working with the dashboard in Anchor right now. Now that you've seen some of the basics, let's dig into the dashboard and how to manage your podcast. Your dashboard just shows you an overview. You can also get your podcast link just by copying on the copy URL button. You can share your podcast to Twitter, Facebook, or embed your podcast into a website, so it'll show the most recent episode and link to your podcast. You can also go and look at your analytics and see your listeners, and it'll show you which episodes were put out and distributed on these particular days, and it'll show you what happens to your audience count. And you can see that once when you don't publish for a little while, like I did in April, and I didn't do much over the summer, your listeners go down, and then as soon as you publish something, it spikes up. And again, I had a giant spike here. I'm not sure if it was about hybrid teaching. And so this is really handy to look at. You can see your top episodes and which ones got the most hits. And then you can also look at your listeners and where they're from and what kind of platform they're using. Obviously, a lot of them, people using Apple Podcasts, and some people using Anchor and Spotify, and then lots of other ways to listen as well, whether it's via embedded website or something like that. And it'll show you demographics of your listeners too. And that's it. So it's a very handy tool to be able to see your podcast. Now, if you go into episodes, you're going to be able to go in and see how many plays of each episode there were. And you can see how many plays, the length of it, when it was published. And then you can go in and get more detailed information about that particular episode too, and all the analytics for that. It'll show you how how often or how long average people are listening, and it's a very, very handy tool. And then how it measures up to some of your other episodes. So it's a great way to see how you're doing, see what's working, what's not working, what's going well. So that's very nice. And then under your settings, you can go to distribution and you can see your RSS feed, which is going to be handy for when you want to distribute your podcast to Apple Podcast. You have to provide this RSS feed. That's one of the links they require. And then it'll give you all the available listening platforms that you've submitted to. It will automatically distribute to Anchor, obviously, and then Spotify. And then you can submit your RSS feed to Google Podcasts and Apple Podcasts like I have here. And there's lots of other distribution methods as well. I haven't looked into a lot of these, but some of them are not free. So you can just check it out, but it's a way to get your podcast out there, and you can monetize your podcast. I choose not to do that. You can get sponsorships that are Anchor sponsors, where you have to record something for them, or maybe you find other sponsors, but you can monetize it through Anchor as well. I just choose not to do that, and probably won't need to. But it's a great tool, and it's totally free, and it's a great way to monitor and manage your podcast. Now, obviously, I could spend many hours showing you how to record a podcast and how to make that. There are lots of tutorials on Google and on YouTube that will show you how to do this and maybe answer some questions. Again, because this is such a short session and because this is a virtual session, it's hard for me to take questions right now, but I would love to hear what you have to say and answer any questions you might have. So please do not hesitate to contact me on my website. It's orchestrateacher.net, and you will definitely be able to find me there. Feel free to send me an email. I can answer questions. I'm going to also put a whole bunch of references on that website for materials, for recorders, for some demos that would be good for you to watch, videos and tutorials, etc. Again, if you are interested in listening to my podcast, the Orchestra Teacher Podcast, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Amazon. There are a couple QR codes here. I'll also have links in my materials on my website. Thank you so much again for being a part of this virtual conference and watching my presentation today. Again, if you have any questions, any concerns, anything that you need at all regarding podcasting or any of the other topics that you might see on my website at orchestrateacher.net, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You can find me via email at it's charleslaux and the number 1 at gmail.com. Or you can also find me on Facebook and Twitter. Just do a search for Charles Laux. You should find me. And looking forward to being able to talk to you in person or via email or even maybe on Zoom someday. Thanks again for being here, and we will see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. For resources and more information, visit orchestrateacher.net.